if you ever put your leather on and went out for a ride and noticed that there's significantly less other motorcyclists on the road, because apparently you're the only one who actually buys winter riding gear, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. What is up, y'all? Today, I'm going to talk to you about not the first delay pedal that ever influenced me, but the delay pedal that I've had the longest that truly taught me the most about my guitar playing.
Soon after.
That lady's driving the wrong way down the road. Okay. That was super dangerous. Like, what in the world? So let's get into it. So back when I started playing live and touring, the very first delay pedal that I ever bought, which was only the second pedal I ever bought, was a Line 6 DL4. And it was a delay pedal that you had multiple delays and you could save different settings. And then you also had a looper that you could turn on and use the looper live. And you can reverse your loops, make them forward, half speed them. You can record over the loop and then play it back and delete off of it. You can do a lot of things with that. A lot of people did like creative things where they would loop just themselves playing. I did that sometimes live, but more or less I used it for the separate delay settings that I could save. So if I wanted a reverse delay and then a ping pong delay and maybe like an analog delay, I could do all those and then still have tap tempo on the side where I could tap in my rhythm as I needed to live. And I love that pedal. The problem was Line 6, for whatever reason, made those pedals where I think it was the buffer unit would, if it was overloaded, it would actually fry your circuit board. And the cost for a circuit board was $1 cheaper than the entire pedal itself. Which meant if you had the pedal and you needed to get it fixed, it cost $1 less than buying a new pedal to fix the pedal. Now, I blew up my Line 6 DL4 3 times and paid for a new circuit board 3 times because I'm an idiot. I was young and dumb. But the thing that I did learn from that experience is having a delay pedal that I relied on as my only delay pedal when I needed something else that was reliable, that wouldn't break on me, and I could just, in case my DL4, which I actually preferred, broke on me, I could have like a similar but separate sound that I could go to and turn that on. So I went out to Guitar Center and I played around with some delays and I came across one called the Boss DD20. Now the Boss DD20, it's called the Giga Delay. This also has multiple settings that you can save and you can recall by double tapping on the 2 pedals together and then kind of going through them and it lights up. You could have 5 presets or you could have 4 presets and the one standing version. So the standing version being like you could use a looper, that's normally where I left mine on, or you could actually have a fifth setting that was just the setting it was on with where all the knobs were at the moment. So I bought that pedal to not replace my Line 6 DL4, but essentially to be the backup in case it broke. But I put them both on my board, and I used them together for years. Like, the DL6 would crap out live, and then I would just default over to the DD20. And then at one point, I just finally got tired of Line 6 stuff altogether. I used to have an FM4 that also had the same problem where the circuit board would fry, and I was so reliant on those sounds that I would have to go get it fixed and get another one, and eventually I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stop playing with these sounds. I love them, but why have something that keeps breaking and you can't use it, but you're reliant on it? All you're going to end up doing is trying to find alternatives. Not only that, but then they discontinued the FM9, so I couldn't get it, and they discontinued the DL4. Now, mind you, modern day, they have a new one, the DL4 Mark II. It's slightly smaller, a little more streamlined, and a little better. Even has MIDI capability. But I didn't necessarily want to just go back to that. When you get fed up with something, you're just fed up. I was done with Line 6. Like, I wasn't going to try any other Line 6 stuff. So, I kept the DD20, and it just became my main delay pedal. And one of the things that I didn't really think about is the stock settings on that pedal. Everything that's stock, like when you just turn the pedal on, it comes with 4 stock presets. The entire 20 years that I own that pedal, I used the stock presets for everything. But I didn't know what settings they were, and I read the manual recently and found out what they were, and it was essentially an analog tape delay, an analog delay, and then a really long digital delay with like a reverb ambience or something on it. And that's pretty much all I used. Now, I did go into when I was playing with the presets, I modified them just slightly for just to fit my playing and my sound a little bit. But really that was like sculpting the tone and setting the delay length to a little shorter or a little longer. It wasn't really anything different than that. But what's interesting is I played with this pedal for 20 years and never knew what I was doing. But I learned a lot. I learned exactly that I just wanted some basic stuff. This pedal has all sorts of crazy, you can control every little aspect in there. You can go in. There's a lot of options. And one of the things that I didn't like about the DL4 is it also had a lot of options, and you had to menu dive to go into it and figure out things. And I figured out I'm really just not a menu diving person to get in. I like being able to just turn a knob, get there, and I'm locked in and I'm good to go. And if I have to menu dive to get down in the nitty gritty of things, I'm not that guy. I would rather do that on other things, on the mixing side, on the playing and the writing side, I nitty grit into everything, but I'm not going to do that on a delay or on a specific sound. Now, some people I think that's what separates the people that like things like these digital modelers, like the fractal stuff or the quad cortex. They'll get an amp simulation and they'll just deep dive into the amp simulation to make it sound good when it's recorded and make it sound good, in the digital world, to where it sounds exactly like or really close to a processed guitar in a song that sounds like it was a real amp. I'm just not the guy that's going to menu dive. Why try to menu dive when you can just find something that'll get you there fast and you can start working? If it's a tool, I don't want to rely on a tool that I have to get surgical on just to make it work. It's just a tool. Anyway, I digress. So the DD20, I've had this pedal for 20 years, and I learned that I didn't like menu diving. And I liked that it was essentially analog. I could just turn a couple knobs and always tweak and get exactly where I wanted. But I'm not kidding, for 20 years, I used the same settings. And they were the stock settings, just slightly tweaked. Maybe the delay time was slightly adjusted, the decay was slightly adjusted, the tone was slightly adjusted, but pretty much where it came stock is what I enjoyed. And now, I've got other delays. I've bought delays over the years. I've sold delays. I currently have, I think, another 4 or 5 delays. And I currently mainly use 2 other delays. And honestly, for the country gig, I just ended up using a delay pedal that I bought 2 years ago and never used, which was the Strymon, what is that called? It's not normally black. I got the custom midnight edition. It's the Strymon tape. Oh man, what is it called? El-Cap. El-Capiston. The Strymon El-Cap. I've been using the Strymon El-Cap, and it sounds great. I actually like that. And the other pedal that I like to use for more heavy rock stuff is the Keeley Halo. And the Keeley Halo it has a little bit of menu diving, but honestly, you don't even have to do it. You could just turn it on, figure out which setting you want, and then just use it. Use it right there, and you have two different delays, a A and a B, that you can just kind of bounce between if you need two different sounds. But other than that, you don't even need to do that. I mean, you can, and the crazy thing is you can actually save up to something crazy like 10 delays on the thing. But I personally don't need that, so it wasn't really a factor for me. I just really liked the sound of the halo delay, because that's essentially what I was doing. I was always using a reverb and then a really strong, unique, or I was always using a delay and a really strong, unique reverb over it. So I would pair my DD20 along with like a Strymon Blue Sky, or I would pair my DL4 with like a Blue Sky or something along those lines in order to get that sound. Sometimes I would pair the DD20 with the DL4. So I'd have two delays in tandem, and that's essentially what the Halo does. And because it puts a quarter note delay into a longer delay, it almost makes it sound like there's a reverb naturally, but because it mimics the tape delay doing it, it mimics the warble, not the warble, it mimics the tape age, so it kind of, the tone falls off in an analog way. Actually analog, not tape. It mimics the way an analog delay naturally kind of tone gets darker, so it stays behind your note. It does that. So I've come to the point where I have realized I don't need as many menu diving, and I also don't really play with my DD20, but there's other things that I'm interested in getting, which are like single delays that are just very simple, and I can just tweak maybe 3 knobs and get there. And I honestly didn't use the tap tempo on the DD20 as much as I did on the DL4. I don't know why. I just didn't use it. I mean, the stock settings worked pretty good for everything that I wanted, and I tweaked them for the sounds that I was writing at the time, and it just seemed to all work together in the first place. So I decided to trade my DD20, which I am on my way to the studio to do some work. And then I will be meeting up with the guy once he hits me up. So it'll probably be dark by then, but I'm going to change the settings and try to record it. See if I can get you guys to see I trade the guy. And he offered me a pedal. I don't know if I'm going to take that pedal or not. I wanted to see it and kind of ask him some questions about it. And then he also said he could do cash. So one or the other. But something that's common in the guitar world or the music world is trading and selling instruments. And the thing is, it's kind of a cheap barrier to get into this world. You can find used gear and actually trade gear back and forth. People do it all the time. And I don't really see that in a lot of other places. Maybe the motorcycle world, people go to swap meets and they'll swap part for part. You know, they get custom pieces made by a guy that happens to own a CNC shop or something. You don't really see that in other aspects of hobbies that people do. And I think it's kind of interesting. I never really thought about it. But 20 years owning a single pedal is a long time. And it's kind of this weird thing where, like, I actually still have uses for it. I kind of don't want to get rid of it. But at the same time, I don't play it that often, and it's kind of big and bulky. It's cumbersome. It's not really convenient to put on a board anymore, because I can, for the size that it is, I could put 2 pedals in that same spot. And nowadays, there's those 2 pedals that I put in that same spot can cover a multitude more ground than that pedal can. My Keeley Halo alone can cover more ground than that pedal can. So I could put my Keeley Halo and still add another pedal next to it. So I figured it was time to let it go. And it just made me start thinking about the fact that I spent 2 decades with the pedal not because I wanted it, but because I got it to replace something else that I loved, and it just ended up being the better backup, and I always looked at it as the backup. And even like today, when I still use it, I look at it as a backup. I don't look at it as a primary to anything. But whenever I'm plugging into random amps, I'm just like playing along, like fiddling around and coming up with ideas, and I don't really want to plug it on my pedal board. oftentimes I would throw that pedal on the ground, get a power supply, plug it in. That'd be the only thing I mess with. I would just play with that pedal alone. And I wouldn't have anything else. My guitar, maybe a tuner, because you could daisy chain to a tuner. But outside of that, I would just play with that pedal and I'd be fine. Because if I needed any of those sounds, they were right there. It is highly convenient to have a multi-tool like that. I just don't necessarily need it anymore. And it's just kind of funny how I had a pedal for 20 years and I learned so much from it. Especially when it wasn't a pedal that I intended on keeping. I actually can remember going into Guitar Center because I had a show coming up and I was already worried because my DL4 was kind of being fidgety, and I was like, I can't do this again. I need to get something now, lock it in, get it on the board, and I gotta keep trucking. And I didn't think of anything of it. I honestly probably thought I was gonna return it to Guitar Center or trade it off eventually, which I guess I am. But I honestly thought that trading it off was gonna be like a year from then, not 20 plus years later. It's funny how something as simple as a guitar pedal makes you really think about the decisions you made in your life and the things that you thought at one point was the end-all be-all of something, and then you actually changed your mind, and the thing that was the backup actually became the thing that you actually needed and you actually loved. I don't know exactly what pedal, if I just sell it, I don't know what pedal I'm gonna get, or if I'm gonna trade it, if I really want that one, or if I'll just trade the next one over. I don't really know. I don't have anything that I am necessarily fiending for. But the thing with guitar pedals is sometimes when you don't need a guitar pedal, meaning you have one that you don't use anymore, you might be able to trade it for something that you might not want, but you are interested enough in that you want to mess with it because maybe it will inspire you in a new way. Because it's a new toy, you know, like you get excited for the new thing. It's an easy way to go into getting something new to try and finding that inspiration without having to buy something outright full price new and like going into debt. You can actually just trade a pedal or trade a guitar or trade a little amp, trade a practice amp. You could trade these little things to get other things that might inspire you without you having to pay a lot of money, because if you have something you don't use, you can just go ahead and trade it, get something that you might use, you might not. Maybe you'll trade that too. But you might get something out of it where like you learn how to use this pedal that it has a latency for how you would actually play it. So you learn to play a little bit behind to stay on time, which is a skill set. There's all sorts of benefits of trading gear to get other gear. And I don't see that a lot in any other hobby, really. You don't really trade motorcycle parts to get other motorcycle parts to give you a new skill set. Unless you're trading something for something that you don't have that's like a custom install that you don't know how to do and you're learning how to get it done. But even then, most things, if you're already working on bikes, you know how to do things. You're not jumping into that because you don't know how to do things. So I guess my dad advice would be, if you have something that you don't use anymore, see if you can trade it. See if there's somebody else out there that maybe you can trade for it. And you don't have to just put it out that you're looking to trade for the thing. You can shop for people that are looking for trades and just ask them straight up, hey, you've got this thing, I'm kind of interested in it. Would you be interested in trading that for what I have? And sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no, sometimes they'll say maybe that plus cash, sometimes they'll be like, you know what, why don't we meet up and we get to like play them together for a second to see. There's all sorts of ways you can go about this. And in the world of music, it's one of the easiest ways for you to get inspiration. It's also an easy way for you to get out and meet people. Sometimes you'll sell something to somebody and they'll be interested in you as a human, and then it turns out y'all have the same music taste. Y'all are both looking for a band together doing something that's similar in style, and you make a friend. I've made plenty of friends by just trading and selling things over the years. I've made contacts. I've even gotten gigs. I one time sold an amp to a guy, And the guy had a gig coming up, and he knew I played in a band, and he hit me up. He was like, hey, I know we're going to meet up with this amp, and what if we met up with this amp at the gig, and we both played it? And we did that. We both played the gig with the same amp, and that way it was like, yeah, we both knew what was going on. I was buying the amp off him, and I wanted to know it was going to do what I needed it to do. And that's honestly an amp I super regret selling. That was a Soldano. But it was awesome. I got a gig out of it, got a friendship out of it, and got an amp out of it. So don't be afraid to ask people if they'll take a trade, and don't be afraid to trade off the things that you don't use anymore. If you're not using it, and you don't really see a value in keeping it, see if you could trade it. Alright guys, if you like what you see, hit like and subscribe. That's all for today. And remember, pull hard, play hard. That lady's driving the wrong way down the road. Okay. That was super dangerous. I had to exit because I didn't know if I was going to get hit. Like, what in the world?